Hi, welcome back. What a powerful opening keynote session. I found that to be very insightful, and especially given that we talked about the central role software is playing in not only operations of an organization, but in providing the competitive advantage for an organization. So it's only natural that the efforts to secure that software get prominence at the board level. And hopefully that will translate into more budget and visibility for the application security and software security projects that you are working on. So before we go to the next session, I'll take a couple of minutes to talk about the Purple Book community. For those of you who are not aware of it, Purple Book community is the host of this conference. It is an organization, it is a community started by several security leaders, has a place where the broader security community can come to learn about the concerns, best practices in software security area. It started off as a project to write a book, and the book was written. It's called the Purple Book of Software Security. And the book was made available for free. So the leaders gave their time and talent, very generous of them and very thankful for their contributions. You can refer to the book at the digital version of the book at thepurplebook.club. And over a period of time, people have watched it, have read it, loved it. And last year in 2020, it actually won the award, the DevOps Book of the Year in 2022. So the community has continued its contributions to the broader security community by bringing in the best and the brightest in application security, product security, and more broadly, software security. We do blogs, podcasts, and we meet twice a month, every month, and have panel discussions on subjects that the community thinks are important. We have talked about issues like how to reduce friction between developers and AppSec engineers. And we have even had sessions about how to use ChatGPT, what are the creative use cases, and how to put guardrails around it, right? So if you're interested in the community, do check it out on thepurplebook.club and apply for membership if you're interested. And of course, the Purple Book community also hosts this conference, AppSecCon 2023. We did it last year too. This year, we have close to 40 speakers giving talks on 20 different sessions, from why boards should care about software security to doing the business case to doing the best and the worst practices in DevSecOps, and then a new maturity model. I'll talk about it a little later. The Purple Book community has come up with a new maturity model called Scalable Software Security Maturity Model. I'll talk about that in one of the next sessions. But before that, I'd like to introduce you to the next session, which is AppSec 101. And it is delivered by LaFrance, who is SVP and CISO at Planet Art. This is a session for anybody who's looking to start a new AppSec program, or looking to restart an AppSec program, or mature their AppSec program. So this gives an overview of what the journey looks like. So come, let's take a look at that session.
Hello, I'm LaFrance, and I am here at the Purple Book Community AppSecCon 2023. I'm going to be talking about AppSec 101. This presentation is geared towards people who are learning about AppSec, towards people who want to build an AppSec program, towards leaders who would like to mature their AppSec programs. So we will, without further ado, we'll jump right in. I'm going to talk today about why do we do AppSec? What's the purpose behind AppSec? Some tips for building a program, some trends in application security, and the people, the process, and the technology that is necessary to be successful with an AppSec program. Why do we do AppSec? AppSec is crucial for any organization that has a developer at all. It's an important part of any cybersecurity program, and every company that has a web presence is a software company. So where AppSec is going to find problems from the code to the cloud. First thing that you're going to need to do when introducing application security into your organization is to build a business case. If you have developers, you need AppSec. So this is a way to sell AppSec to the higher ups to make sure that the C-suite understands the importance of application security. Compliance can be an important stick to use if you need to justify an AppSec program. Nearly every organization has some compliance obligations, whether that's PCI, whether that's HIPAA or GDPR or CCPA. Everybody is under some sort of compliance obligations. Now, we all know, if you've been in security at all, that compliance does not equal security, but it is important for the business to know that compliance, it can drive some pieces of security forward. Really important in your business case also is reputation. So the reputation of our company is at stake. No news is good news when it comes to data breaches. We'd really like to ensure that we stay out of the news. We'd like to ensure that our customers can trust us. ROI, the average cost of a data breach, according to IBM and their 2022 cost of a data breach report, was $4.35 million. So there is a tremendous return on investment when we invest in application security and security as a whole. Customer trust, we can gain certifications, we can gain things like SOC 2 reports, we can gain things, ISO certifications. These types of assurances will win customer and business partner trust and make a lot of things like third-party vendor security a lot easier if we are in the supply chain. And last, but certainly not least, is uptime and resilience. Businesses need to make money. So the business case of reducing downtime, protecting revenue streams is incredibly important. Security, we know, is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and making sure that we are not forgetting that availability tier is really important as we make a business case for software security. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit and move into some of the people, the process, and technology needed to build a successful application security program. Over the course of my career, I've helped to build application security programs in a couple of organizations from the ground up, from taking it from zero to a pretty mature place. And what I'm about to present in people, process, and technologies by no means a comprehensive list of everything that's needed. This is a list of some of the core pieces to get your application security up off the ground. So starting with people, who are the key players to have a good basic application security program? It all starts with leadership. It's why we started with a business case, because without C-suite buy-in, the application security program is going to be nowhere near as successful as we'd like it to be. So we really want to be able to show the business what application security will do for us and how important it is to the organization. From there, we're going to need security engineers. We're going to need people who are dedicated as much as possible. I recommend full-time employees dedicated to application security. What I've done is to have a couple of application security engineers on the InfoSec team. They're the ones who build the security tools, who interface with developers across the organization, who help to find and prioritize and validate issues. And they're kind of the core people within the security team who are going to drive the program forward technologically. Security champions are also an incredibly important part of an application security program. These are going to be the people who are not directly reporting to the InfoSec team. These are the people who are embedded within development organizations, who attend all the sprint planning meetings. These are the people who are going to be chosen to represent security in the development environment. Now, these people are incredibly important to have good alliances with. Even if they don't report to security, they're the ones who are the points of contact with the security engineering team. They're the people who can help tutor other developers and be on the lookout. They're the one with their finger on the pulse, if you will, to be able to understand what's going on in the developer organization and to help bring security in there at every step of the way. And then architecture and product. So without architecture and product buy-in, it's going to be really, really hard to be successful in application security. On the architecture side, the whole idea is to start to build in security to everything that we do, to build in security into the fabric of the organization. So we want to start at that architecture level and start to build security into everything. Now, I understand and have seen plenty of times that security has not necessarily been built into everything that's produced in an organization. So also on the architecture side, there's a lot of discernment needed of, well, can we bolt security onto existing things? But it is the big picture vision of security. So product management is really, really important to get on board with application security, with cybersecurity. They're going to be the ones who can help defend putting security into the product roadmap rather than features X, Y, and Z into your website. So creating a strategic alliance with product, helping them to really understand security and the importance of application security and why we're doing what we're doing, goes a long way into getting all of the security things that we know we need to do prioritized. So the process of introducing and building application security into an organization, this is kind of a loose methodology of how I've built teams in the past. Everything starts with risk assessment. Security is all about risk assessment. We don't do anything in security just to do whack-a-mole and to take little bits. We try to understand the big picture and understand the risks to the organization, and then we can strategically plan our roadmap to bring application security into the organization. So when we have a clear understanding of the risk, then we can start to talk to the senior leadership and start to show them, hey, our main risk points are in these different areas. And we'd like to start here in order to gather the quick wins. We'll get the support from senior leadership, and we can't do it alone. Application security, any sort of security, it has to be adopted throughout the entire organization. Policies and standards are really important to this process. Policies and standards are usually accepted by the most senior leadership of the company. And so it's a way to kind of hold their feet to the fire. Hey, you said that we need to have all code reviewed by a peer before it gets published. That's in our policy. We're not doing it. So let me hold your feet to the fire. Things like that are going to really help get your business support and carve out the time that we need. After we've got the business support, then we build the team. We choose our security engineers, application security engineers, our security champions. We start cross-training. We start evangelizing application security throughout the organization. And as we build this team and we start to build the tool set, Now, you don't want to build a tool set before you build the team. That's going to lead to making the team members try to fit into certain boxes that maybe don't quite fit. So I really encourage you to build a tool set around the people. Find what works for your team, find what works for your developers, find what works for your security engineers, and then choose the tools from there that best match what your objectives are, what your risk profile is in the company, and everything that will cover your tech stack. From there, from building the tool sets, then we move into iterating and optimizing. We find the processes that work for the organization. And what I've seen in this is we start with, it's an iterative process. We start with a theory and we say, all right, let's try this and work with a team in releasing vulnerabilities and releasing roadmaps or AppSec initiatives in this way. And we find out like, oh, that development team responded fantastic to that idea, or no, that other development team didn't respond so well to that idea. And so we work with the people to try and find a cadence that works for each team. I've worked with teams that have 3-month release cycles. I've worked with teams that have daily release cycles. And so it's really important to start to work with each and every team member or team to figure out what it is, what your cadence is, well, the best way that they work. And when you really work with the people, then you're going to find a lot of success in making your tools work and pushing forward the program. Last but certainly not least are the core AppSec technologies. Now, this is by no means an exhaustive list of AppSec technologies, but these are some of the things I've found to be extremely common tool sets and extremely important tool sets as we learn to build an application security program. So really quickly, SAST, the source code scanning, is a really important piece to have, being able to find problems in your source code. It's a key to any sort of shift left approach to application security. The problem with it is that right out of the box, every SaaS product that I've used out of the box, the fidelity is going to be low. There's going to be a whole bunch of findings that may not have any relevance to actual issues. The good part about that is the cost to fix is very low. When you find a problem in the source code, it's pretty easy for developers to go in, fix it. There's not a lot of troubleshooting. Most SaaS products will tell you exactly what you should do, and so cost to fix is kept pretty low. Software composition analysis, another absolutely important piece of an AppSec tool set, making sure that we understand all third-party libraries that are in our source code and the vulnerabilities that exist in those libraries. So the fidelity of your findings out of the box are going to be pretty good generally, and the ability to fix those is generally pretty easy. I'm gonna say generally pretty easy, because sometimes if developers are using out of date library and a ton of things are built on it, it can get very complex. But generally pretty easy to update dependencies. DAS products, dynamic application security scanning. It's a piece of the puzzle. I've found it to be probably the least value of all of the generic application security tool sets, mostly because the fidelity of the findings, there's just a lot of false positives, and you're scanning things either in production or pre-production. And so you have to go back and fix things after you've validated them. So I think the cost to fix can range from low to high, but I'm not a huge fan of DAST because of just the low fidelity of the findings, which is why I'm a huge fan of vulnerability disclosure programs and bug bounty programs. They take DAST kind of to the next level, where researchers are actually finding and validating issues before they present them to you. So your fidelity out of bug bounty program findings is very, very high if you let your bug bounty providers do the triage and then present to you the good findings. Problem is, you got to pay bounties, and the cost to fix is very, very high. That's going to be as far right as you go on your kind of like fix it at the developer level from code on the far left to fix the issues in production. Bug bounty VDP is as far right as you can go, but when the problems are there, they're real problems and very important. APIs are becoming a huge thing. API security is becoming a really, really fast growing market. And so I absolutely recommend finding good API security products and incorporating them into the tech stack, discovery, all that type of stuff. Attack surface management, another important piece of the puzzle, knowing, scanning, understanding what's out there, what's exposed. You can't understand what you need to protect unless you understand what's exposed. And then 𝗖𝗍 and container scanning for any company that's in cloud that's using Kubernetes, EKS, any sort of containerization technology, important to make sure that we are scanning our infrastructure as code and containers. So this is all leading into some things that are going to be presented more in this AppSecCon 2023, this scalable software security maturity model. In general, an organization is going to move along these levels of maturity, starting with a reactive level where there's really not much of an application security program. It's, you had an incident, you had an issue, you had something happen, and then we're just reacting to that. You start to build the application security level, you start to move into proactive, you start to you may not be ahead of the game, but you're trying to find and fix issues before they become big problems in production. You start moving up that chain, going up to a managed level. Processes are defined and policy is followed. Next step in the progression. And then you start to optimize. You start to introduce automation. You start to reduce your mean time to recovery. You start to optimize your time between bug fixes and how long bugs live in production. You start to really get a really good cadence with teams, and you start to shift left. You start to find things earlier and earlier on in the process and deal with them. And then the last stage, a dynamic AppSec program. These are going to be your really mature organizations. Probably nobody who's really interested in this AppSec 101 talk is going to achieve level 5 in the immediate future, but this is the goal. This is where we want to drive everything towards. Last of all, I want to talk about some trends in AppSec. First of all, DevSecOps. We're moving at the speed of business. We need to learn how to incorporate our tools into continuous type release cycles. API security, I spoke about that a little bit, but APIs are everywhere. Making sure that we're understanding the threats and how to discover what APIs are, detect and prevent threats, really, really important. Supply chain security. So supply chains, a lot of the main breaches so far have been from third-party vendors. And so we really need to understand, do we play a part in the supply chain? What sort of applications are a part of our supply chain, and who are they, and are there any vulnerabilities? Container and cloud, the boundaries between applications and infrastructure are blurring. Infrastructure is now code, and we need to ensure that infrastructure as code is protected. And any sort of serverless applications that we don't have, for example, lambdas that are just out there but are unscanned and we don't actually understand what they're doing, that those things are brought into our application security fold. AI and ML obviously exploding at this point in time, and we want to make sure that we are using those tools well. We can use them. The bad guys are using them. We should use them as the good guys as well. They can really help with anomaly detection, data classification, behavioral analysis. And then privacy by design. Privacy is a huge part of application security, and making sure that we are building privacy into everything that we do. There's all kinds of frameworks out there. There's all kinds of regulations out there. And we want to make sure that we are addressing privacy as part of our application security process. So to wrap it all up, AppSec is a business priority. Everybody needs it. Starting with that, we want to make sure that we're building a good team, that we're building teams across the organization, that AppSec isn't just an InfoSec problem, but that it's an entire company problem. We want to shift left as much as possible, find problems before they become problems. Starting at the architecture level, incorporating things like SAST scanning into IDEs, developer environments, fixing things as early as possible. But we can't forget that far right side, and where bug bounties, vulnerability disclosure programs, those types of tools are invaluable in our tool set. Making sure we choose the right tools that go from the left to the right, that we go all the way and cover everything. Very, very important. Having the right processes that are sustainable for the company, making sure that InfoSec isn't simply dictating a process, but that we're working with all of the teams across the company in order to be as optimized as we can. Prioritization of our application security issues that we find super critical. CVSS score does not equal risk. So we need to make sure that from an application security program, we're not just hucking a bunch of stuff over the fence saying, hey, I did a SAST scan, fix all of these vulnerabilities, but that we're really understanding the business context and the context around all the code, and focusing on the most important stuff first. And then continually refining, continually optimizing our processes. If we don't look at where we've been, we're not going to be as successful in the future. So working with that on all levels, from the engineering levels, from the doers to the leaders of the company, is really, really important. That is all I have. Thank you very, very much for attending, and we are done.